Did you know that you can use interior wall paint on your canvases? Well, you can. I know, not gallery quality, doesn't hold up in the light. Yeah. But if you get a higher quality interior wall paint, it'll be less expensive and go a little farther. I'm gonna show you what paint I use and why I use it. Even if it's not a perfect solution, it's actually a pretty good one if you're on a budget. So, you can hit up your local hardware store, find the colors you want, go to the counter and ask for them to mix up a sample size. I usually have them do it in matte. That's just a personal preference, but I feel the finishing coat sticks to it a little better. I also went to my local Michael's to pick up some other common brands of yellow, just to compare. The only thing I don't show myself grabbing is the golden brand paint. I don't know why I didn't film it, but you'll see it in the rest of the video. I will have all the paint and materials listed below. So we've got Liquitech Basics. This is 4 ounces and costs $5.49. Then a pretty common acrylic paint. You'll see different brand names, but it's all pretty similar, usually in this kind of container. This is 2 ounces and it costs $3.49. Then we've got the golden fluid acrylics. The fluid's my favorite, but I'll cover that in a different video. This is 1 ounce for $7.99. And we have the Winsor & Newton acrylic paint. This is 2 ounces for $5. And then finally, the Behr Marquee. This is the wall paint. I know, a lot of controversy. This is about 7.5 ounces for $5. I decided to do this test in yellow because if there's gonna be any issue with the paint, yellow is gonna show the flaw. Right away, and most notably, is the difference in color among these 5 paints. We're gonna show how well the paint covers. Yellow is really tricky. Even with the greatest of paints, it usually takes multiple layers to cover something that's darker. So on this canvas, I'm gonna scribble across some pencil, followed by a ballpoint pen, and then followed by an acrylic paint pen. Now I want that acrylic paint pen to remain wet to see what happens to the yellow paint if you were to accidentally bump into it while it was wet. The Liquitech Basics has a really vivid color, but it doesn't really cover anything. Not the pencil, not the pen, and it doesn't hold up to the black paint very well. And then the Craft Smart, while it might not have the most vivid color, it actually covered okay. You can still see a little bit of the pencil, and definitely some of the black, but it's not so bad. The Winsor & Newton held up almost identically to the Liquitech Basics. The golden is very vivid and covers similarly to the Craft Smart. The Behr Marquee, and a couple of quick swipes, pretty much covers everything. A little bit of black mixed in there. The downside is that clearly the color is not as vivid as the Basics, Winsor & Newton, and golden. Using the same acrylic paint pen to draw black dots, I actually let the dots dry this time so you can see what the paint does over just dry black paint. I did my best just to make sure that the paint got on there pretty flat, pretty even. I didn't want it to be really thick on the top, but I didn't want to remove paint from the dots either. That kind of defeats the purpose. Just from the dried dots, the Craft Smart, that covers pretty well, especially for a lower end kind of budget acrylic. And then the golden fluid acrylics also cover pretty decently. That's second to the right. And then the Behr Marquee covers it the very first time. Now, if you're concerned about gallery quality and you don't mind putting on a few extra layers and you really need that vivid color, then you probably want to go with the golden acrylics. But if you're on a budget and you're really looking for that deep coverage, the Marquee is actually your friend here. If you're concerned about the hue or the vividness of color, you can simply take a single layer of maybe the Liquitech Basics or the golden on top of it. That way you get your coverage and your color. A couple of helpful tips: using wall paint, especially something like the Behr Marquee because it's pretty thick. You can thin it out just using water, and you can add a bit of GAC 800 to it, and that'll keep it from crazing as it dries. A little bit goes a long way. And what's crazing? Crazing is the cracks that you get when your paint dries too fast, or over time if the paint becomes too dry. This doesn't mean that you'll always or even frequently have this problem, but it's a good preventative. And finally, when you're done with your painting, you can use a finishing coat of an artist grade UV protection, which will give it a perfect sheen and help protect you from light damage, which artist grade paint kind of already has baked into it. The downside is that the container is a little cumbersome, So you can just get these little plastic bottles, the same kind of bottle that the Craft Smart acrylic paint is in, and then just pour your paint into them. It's easier to store, easier to handle. You don't have to worry about getting too much paint everywhere. You can control it pretty easily. It's really not all that bad. Give it a try for yourself. You might find it really works for you. You might find it's not for you, but I think it's worth a shot.